Coming to you guys live from the FTC sound stream, the sound of Five Towers College. This is Through the Tunnel. This is where people tell their truth, not the highlight reel, but the whole shebang, basically, about how they travel through life and all the trials and tribulations that they face and overcame to the success that they have in life. And it's not about it's not about the pressure that people don't see, but it's about like the moments that nobody claps for. It's about the grind before the true success, that struggle inside the tunnel. And my name is Aaron Jones, and let's walk through this tunnel with Alex Garrett. How are you doing today, Alex?
I love how deep this sounds already. I think you're right. We're all walking through that tunnel, and sometimes we still are, and I like the concept of through the tunnel. So congratulations on this pod. I'm doing good. Actually, you're just catching me off of a live radio broadcast we just did at Salem Media Group. So AM 970 The Answers where you're finding me today. And I want to thank Ryan Pagano, your friend, for connecting us as well.
Yeah, honestly, I truly appreciate the connection with Ryan because he told me like bits and pieces of your story. It's phenomenal. Like we said a little bit before we started recording, you said it's normal to you, but realistically, what you do is very inspiring, Alex.
Well, look, I wear the rollerblade around New York City a lot, almost everywhere I go. Sometimes I wonder if it's because it's easier or if at this point it is like my shtick, I guess, because it is unique. I'm not immune to that fact that rollerblading on one leg is a very unique thing, and it's gotten me some awesome coverage. Look, I know you said highlight reels, but they're just so much that rollerblading has gotten me to in those levels that I feel like are worth sharing. I mean, Humans of New York and other things. But when the rollerblade comes off and the day is done, I think I feel even more normal than when I do rollerblading. Like to you guys, it's inspirational. To me, it's normal to roll. But when I'm off the rollerblade, that's when I feel like I'm the most, I don't want to say vulnerable, but most like thinking. When I'm on my rollerblade, I don't think about things as much. I just roll. But when I'm off my wheels, that's when I start thinking about life and how included am I in society and how connected am I truly. I mean, there's some overthinking I do. I mean, but the rollerblade helps me escape from all that.
Yeah, honestly, it's very cool to hear what you say. Like the roller skating in the city. Like I remember I was watching your story actually like a few days ago. He's like, I'm on the train, the LIR. I'm like, what? Like, and what you do is crazy. And throughout the journey with the first the first segment is like you're going to go through the quiet storm, right?
hmm And I guess in my view, the quiet storm would be whether or not I want to make the fact I rollerblade, make the fact that I do have one leg and thrive with it, whether I want that to be the sticking point of my brand or if I want my brain to be the point of my brand. I mean, it's pretty obvious the rollerblading is a great icebreaker and it's a fun conversation starter, but I also don't want to be defined by that. I'm not some horse and pony show, I guess you would say. I'm a real person. So
Yes.
I was battling this for a long time of how do I want to be defined? Do I want to be defined by what I do in life, which is rollerblade around the city, or do I want to be defined by how I think about life?
Can
Well,
you? Sorry, could continue.
I think I've infused the two. Okay. I still think about my life, but now I'm thinking of it as how do I help others have one leg up on life? That is my main moniker now, leaning into the fact that yes, when I go out, I do crutch stands. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen, but I do these crutch stands where I stand on my crutches and just literally have one leg up in the air. I mean, it it hit me one day in the summer of 2022 because I was going through naming after naming of my podcast, right? And all of a sudden, wow, I do this thing called the crutch stand where I put my leg up in the air and it feels like I'm soaring. Boom, one leg up with Alex Garrett. Now it's become one leg up Alex Media. So even the brand has evolved since then. But it did take a while to wrestle with do I get defined by that or by my thoughts? And as I said, I think I found a way to infuse both of them.
Can you take me back to the beginning where about your childhood? Like, what was it like during that time, and like, what were you naturally drawn to before media?
I've always wanted to be in media. I mean, look, my childhood was on and off doctor's visits, emergency room visits, how many infections did I have growing up? I mean, I had a lot of stuff growing up, and I still manage them through the years as I get into adulthood here. But media was always in the blood. I mean, I was on radio through Variety, the children's charity, when I was 6 or 7 years old, uh, even 8 years old and older. WOR had a radiothon for us, and we raised money for kids with disabilities, and that was very cool. And then, of course, I was on Kids Say the Darndest Things when I was 6 years old. So I mean, media was sort of in my blood, and I did want to play ball. I wanted to play every sport possible, right? But being that I was born with one leg, being that I had one kidney, being that I had all these different things, my mom made the most wisest comment and suggestion, which was cover the game, go into the media side. And here I am 30 plus years later on the media side of things. So I think listening to mom really paid off.
Wow, that's incredible. Sometimes you just got to listen to your parents.
Well, yeah, my dad brought me on to rollerblading. I mean, he was a hockey player, and he would play in New Jersey when I was a little kid, and he'd skate me around the ice actually when I was a little baby. But then he stopped once I started growing up, and he focused more on me and all that. But his idea for me not to walk everywhere was put me on a skate. And the roller skating came very natural. I don't know if we have time in this segment for the story, but I'll tell you, um, we got to skate outside Flushing Main Street at Modell's in Flushing, Maine. And that was really the beginning of that era, which I'm still in. And I rollerblade through the sidewalks outside Shea Stadium. And not even looking at it, I have a curb I had to jump. Would you believe it? I jumped that curb with ease. Like I flew off that curb.
Wow.
And once I knew I landed properly, I was a little nervous, but once I knew I landed properly, I'm like, I could do this. And now I've been doing it. And now you talk about rollerblading in the city. If I feel gutsy enough, I do lift my crutches up and I soar down. By the way, Kirk Cousins on the Raiders. I can't believe that. That's unbelievable. Anyway, I soar. I just saw that now. I soar down Broadway or 6th Avenue just like that. And when the wheels aren't broken down and overused, I am flying, man. I'm flying.
Honestly, man, that's incredible to hear because I know some of the pedestrians out in New York City are like, what is that? Is that Spider-Man? But
We're both Queens boys. I actually grew up in Queens. So the Spider-Man scenes really inspire me because all of it is Queens based.
yes, yes, yes. And as you're moving through that tunnel and that journey, you might face a little dark. And did you ever feel like people focus more on your story than your actual skills? And how did you deal with that?
I felt like uh, that's a very deep question. It wasn't even really that. I felt like I was accepted by communities like the disabled community and the athletic community, which were two of my main communities growing up. But I often felt like an outsider because even in the disabled community, I was still more able bodied than some of my peers. And I'm not afraid to say that. And I think maybe there was some kind of feeling toward that. Like I was able to get up and go, and some of these kids, unfortunately, were not. They were able to go in their own ways, but not totally independent. So I didn't always feel like I fit in with the disabled community.
And
But at the same time, as an athlete who was running since 3 years old, I mean, I ran race after race after race, starting from my walker in the Pee Wee races all the way up to Yankee Stadium this past November. I did the 5K at Yankee
wow.
Stadium, ran and walked it, but I still did it. We ran around the warning track a couple times. I did that at Shea Stadium too when I was a kid. But like, I always view myself as an athlete. But even the athletic community, they were inclusive. They had me, but I still felt like I don't want to say imposing myself, but I was putting myself in that scene because I want to be so badly included. I've always felt like an outsider. I've never felt like I can attach to one group. I've just been a hybrid, I guess you'd say.
Yes, honestly,
And there's some darkness with that because if you see your friends hanging out, but you're not there, it's like, well, I thought I was part of this community. You know what I mean? There's some darkness to like feeling like an outsider and not knowing every event that went on. And when I stopped feeling that exclusion, I'll tell you when. I passed gallstones in 2024, and this is part of my reshaping of my life because prior to that, And if I'm getting too personal, let me know. But prior to that, I'd see my friends out, I'd see people doing things, and I'd be like, man, I don't know, where's my invite type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And now it was almost like with that gallstone I passed. I wrote about this on my blog. I also passed through that insecurity, that feeling of exclusion. Like it just went right through my body because immediately after I was motivated to just say, F it, I'm going to include myself. I'm going to make those connections. I'm going to be, I don't know, yeah, I'll be imposing myself. I'll be inserting myself into the picture because I deserve to be there, you know? And since I did that, I feel like I've taken life and ran with it. I've met a lot of different people because of it too.
That's beautiful. That is very beautiful, Alex. One thing while I was doing my research, right, and I went on your media page, this phrase, adapt with me. What does that look like and what does that truly mean to you?
Always adapting is something I came up with during the pandemic because we have had so much hopelessness actually during the pandemic. Everybody kind of lost hope and how long is this lockout going to go? How long is COVID going to be here? You know, we all had those thoughts and insecurities, and I'm sure you felt that too. I mean, I, at the same time, for the creators, we had such ample time to actually create. It was a beautiful thing in a sense that we were able to create so much from our homes. And I was able to sit down for hours on and talk with people who are always adapting, like uh, quadruple amputee Dana Bowman. Well, really, double amputee. Dana Bowman lost his legs in a uh, exercise with the paratroopers,
Wow.
but he didn't let that stop him. I talked for him an hour because he was like one of my idols growing up as a kid, watching him fly into the games physically challenged with those prosthetic legs. I was like, oh, I love this, you know, and I got to know him a couple of years there. He remembered me in 2020 and did a whole hour with me on the podcast, and that was really special. I got to share how I was very grateful for him and how I grew up, you know, really idolizing him, I guess you'd say. And so from that conversation, I started to get more into the adapting world and say, hey, why am I going after sports and news and all that when my community, when my niche is right here at the Viscardi Center, at the Viscardi School, at the Games Physically Challenged? Those are the stories I want to highlight more because we need those stories highlighted. We need to tell people, hey, you able-bodied people are adapting to this moment right now, but there are tons of people who have been adapting their whole entire life. Let's talk to them.
Honestly, that's incredible, especially with that story, because like I can only imagine you seeing somebody that's similar to you just flying. I'm like, I could do that one day, or
Yeah.
something similar to that. You know, like that's truly incredible, Alex. Like
And
for
like it's
real.
funny you ask about my own timeline. I can bring on all the people. I also find my introspective feelings get listened to more than if I have a big guest on it. I don't know why that is because to me it's natural to just roll around the city and that's my life. Everybody doesn't think everybody doesn't think it's boring. I think it's quite routine to be honest with you. To rollerblade. That's how I live. That's just how I view it. It's not how do you say unique to me.
Yes.
There's not a unique story because I'm always doing it. So the uniqueness is when I bring on someone who's doing something even more intriguing to me and even more interesting to me, and and then people like, but they listen to my story more sometimes. I find that interesting because I find that my life is day to day. I go to radio job, I go home. That's kind of how I view it. It doesn't seem like I'm going out of my way to like roll. I just do it. That's my life. So to bring on other people's stories is more interesting to me than telling my own story. However, I'll tell you one story I talked about. I beat the, and this one gets listened to the most. I beat the bus down the hill, but for some reason my skate wasn't working that day or something, and I actually walked it. So walking down the hill and beating the bus was more intriguing to talk about than say rollerblading down the hill and beating the bus because that happens every day. But when I talk about that difference in routine, that impacted me, you know. So
And honestly, I'm glad that you brought up the word routine because within media, sometimes things won't work. So throughout your journey, especially within media, how did you stay disciplined when things didn't click sometimes?
you mean when I was watching the meters at my college station, love WQMC radio, the voice of Queens College. We were online radio, but they had the stats machine right in front of me, and I had 0 listeners. You know how many podcast downloads I've had since 12 years? 55,000. So I guess I kept at it. But that first time, I remember going home to my mom, my stepdad, and my dad at one point. I'm like, no one's listening. What do I do? Like, am I not interesting enough? Am I boring? Am I this? Am I that? Like, no one's tuning in. I was this close to almost giving up. But you know what I did? I went to a different platform. And I said to myself, I'm going to diversify right now. I got into Blog Talk Radio, which was huge. I'm sure you remember Blog Talk back in the day. It was huge. I did play-by-play there. I did all sports, basketball, baseball, softball, had interviews, had a nightly show there. And yeah, I paid out of the money I was making at Queens College with the fitness center and all that when I was working on campus to do that. But it got me an internship at Dow Global Sports. But it got me hired at AM 970 The Answer. Like that diversion to something else. I guess that was an adaptation. I never thought of it till now. I adapted my own work onto a different platform and it paid off. So there's ways to adapt even when we're not thinking about it, that we just can make ourselves more presentable on a resume and all that. Because I really believe when they saw I diversified, they said, boy, this kid did not stop. He kept going. So
That's honestly awesome to hear because like
and I'm not trying to bash Queens College. I love the college organization I was on. I need to. They got my foot in the door. I was the first broadcaster. Boy, I sound like such a jock right now, but I'm fired up. I was the first guy on radio since Howie Rose to do Queens College playoff basketball. I mean, that was a very special moment back in 2010. Like, I'll never forget that. But then when it started to be like, well, we're off air sometimes, we're not on all the time. Sorry, the show can't be heard right now. And the 0, I started to think, okay, I can move along and do something more. So, yeah, that's where I come at that.
Honestly, that's amazing to hear because I actually was kind of like in that boat of like, I don't know like where should I go like next with the podcast per se, because it's like there's a lot of things that goes into it. Like it's very intricate, honestly, but it's amazing to hear that. And as you move through that tunnel, you may face a moment, right? And my question is, what was there ever a time that you felt boxed in or like only seen for one way?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. And I've been talking a lot, but I've been processing a lot because I'm still grieving the death of my father. Passed away 3 years ago this year. 3 years ago in 23. This year is going to be 3 years. It's going to be crazy. That's crazy. But I've been processing a lot of things. And one of the things about inclusion is that I was so nervous that I was hovering over my athlete friends. And because I don't always feel included. I want to stay away from the cafeteria at Queens College because I was like, I don't think I'm like hovering over them or something like that, you know? So I think the boxed in moment was feeling that outsiderness. And then I overcame that and said, F it, I'm going to do it anyway. You know, like I'm not going to stop that paranoia I have of feeling like I'm hovering and feeling like I'm including myself too much. I'm just going to do it. And I ended up having the best 4 years of college because I made that drastic change and said, I'm going to involve myself. You know, I think that's the biggest message here is always involve yourself. You never know what's going to happen. Did I think when I was in 2010 doing those reports from my room, I'd be interviewing with Waldo Cabrera in 2025 and 24 and, you know, building a friendship with him, Yankees star, of course. I didn't think that back then, but I kept at it. And I was adapting. I mean, I've adapted my show name 20,000 times to make it fit. And every time I adapted, something bigger happened. So,
I appreciate that because like I'm in like that transitions of like actually throwing myself out there like when I came to the school because I graduated at Suffolk Community College with associates and I didn't really do nothing because like I didn't know what to do. But it's like when you actually involve yourself, as you said, it feels different. It feels like you're actually
and it's a necessity because Queens College is a campus that's a very much a commuter school. I actually ended up dorming for 2 years as well, which was pretty exciting. And I was 15 minutes away from the college, but the dorm life was so special. I learned a lot. I grew up a lot in those 2 years, and I was able to involve myself even more. But like Aaron, I'm sure you found it too. Like, unless you put yourself out there, no one's going to come to you and say, "Hey, come with us." We got to be the ones to say, "No, we're coming with you." You know.
Yeah, no, I can totally agree with that. And for another moment throughout the tunnel, what was one of those moments that it just felt like everything clicked, everything felt in sync? What you're doing is actually truly like paying off. What was one of those moments for you, Alex?
It happened recently. So I don't know if you. I happened recently, and I know. I mean, I could talk about how my dad asked me one time in the subway. I was on the phone with him, and he's like, "Well, how are you going to stand out with all the 700 other podcasts that are out there?" You know, and he made a valid point. I was like, "Okay, I get what you're saying. I need to stand out a little more than already think I am." And that was a defining moment, I think. Anyway, the defining moment to know I'm doing what I'm doing and all this work is paying off and this adapting work. I was very big on making sure the LIR was more affordable for people with disabilities. You know, the rush hour, it was $13 for the longest time.
Yes.
I wrote a column that ended up on my blog, but also I pitched out the Daily News and then my post and all that. The Daily News published it. They published a snippet of what I wrote. And all of a sudden, this year, people with disabilities only have to pay half fare all day. And I felt like I could take a victory lap with that because maybe my voice made a difference or something like that, you know? But that's when I realized, okay, this platform is doing something.
That's awesome to hear. You definitely did something because I remember on my birthday actually recently I went to the Barclays. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize how expensive it was to travel just on the train.
Yeah. But let me tell you, you asked, I think you were talking about the earlier part, though, when I was sort of struggling and I don't want to say struggling, just trying to keep my name going and all that. When I was feeling that darkest of like, I'm inserting myself, I'm imposing myself, I'm hovering over them too much, I'm trying to do too much to include myself. One night I get invited out to one of the local bars in Queens, and I won't say my age, but let's say it was a little whatever. The baseball team at Queens College. I walked into that bar because I didn't really go out with them as much before that. I walk into that bar and they're jumping over me like I won the game win, like I just got the game winning hit, and I'm like, I guess I made it now, you know. So that was my moment right there. And so before that though, there was a lot of putting my head down and trying to do what I can to be involved, but there was also that dynamic of well, I'm also announcing these kids. So how do I have this professional friendship with them, but a personal friendship? And I think that's one of the things that you learn if you're covering sports is you can maintain both. I was also a teenager. You know, I was in 19, 17, 18, 19. So, of course, I was a little wild. You know what I mean? But I learned as I grew up through that department that you can be friends with them and you can be their announcer too. Like there was a dynamic there, but also a fine line at that point.
These are all gems that a lot of people need to hear, honestly, within the media. Because, like, PR is one of the main things, like, we face, as you said. Like, it's it's a tricky situation, but at the same time, that you know that you're capable of doing it truly. And I'm glad that you're bringing up that part because, like, it's incredible to like keep that balance with a person like an athlete per se because like they see the broadcast after we're done recording and stuff like that and they might have something to say like
Well,
it's
my favorite
yeah.
moment in Queens College was I announced my roommate, Khalil McDonald, shout out Khalil, 1,000th point as a Queens College basketball guy. And that's like, that's my roommate. I don't know if I said that on the air, but I'm like excited because my roommate just scored the 1,000th point in his career. And he took me on like a little brother. You know, I had that little brother complex because I was a little younger than everybody. I was a little shorter. I'm only 4'9", so there was that too. And I mean, look, you look at me. Yeah, I like to think I'm confident, and I look pretty good, pretty confident on my wheels. But sometimes I might look shorter because I'm hunched over or something. You know, it just I know I know how it can be perceived. Let me put it that way. So to call my friends 1,000 point and to be calling, I call like you know one of my brothers 1000th point. It was really cool.
That's an amazing thing because he'll always remember that and relive that moment every time. Like, yeah, remember that? I'm like, yeah, it's honestly incredible because like those moments, those are like those hidden gems through the tunnel that a lot of people do not see, honestly. And like throughout the tunnel, you're going to eventually, besides the trials and tribulations that you face, you reach that light. You're gonna see the light, and
And it was a mental health journey, if you want to go there for a second, because the
yes,
mental health journey on this is that, yeah, I wouldn't say I threw tantrums, but I got very disappointed when I thought, boy, I call out their games and all this, and then I don't get invited out, and I don't find out about it until the next day. Like that, maybe I shouldn't have taken personal, but I took personal. And that's the kind of thing I do in my radio thing. Like, we're a big family here at 970, but I've learned that I'm not going to get invited out to everything because we're all not in each other's lives on the daily. You know what I mean? And I had to adjust to that as well because I'm of the mind of I'm friends with you, I'm inviting you out everywhere, you know? And when it's not always reciprocated, I'm like, all right, I guess that's what it is. You know, I'm learning to not take it personal, but I did. And I think that's natural, isn't it?
yes, no, honestly, it is. Those are the growing pains throughout life, just in general. Like helps you evolve as an individual and a person. Honestly, like there's multiple times you feel like I should have been there, but realistically, it's not your moment. Your moment gonna come like whenever. So it's like it's amazing to hear that. And as you go through the tunnel, you're going to see that light. And what is some advice can you give to anybody like during their lowest moments right now in the beginning stages of their tunnel? Like, what some advice can you give to these people?
Um, I think the tunnel for some, and I talk about this because
As you're going through your tunnel, right? You're going to like hit that past your trials and tribulations, and you're going to see the light. And what is some advice can you give to people that's like in the beginning stages, those low moments? What some advice can you give to them?
I think emotionally detaching from like those feelings of, boy, I really should have been there. Yet that makes you want to make your own moments, you know, and make you want to eh, have your own crew or whatever. I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of them, but it makes you want to branch out and do your own thing. But I'm learning to not take life personal as much. And maybe that sounds a little too cold, but I think you have to realize there's a time and place for, getting together with people and hanging out. And it's not always going to happen every day and stuff like that. And if people don't invite you, it's nothing personal. Just it wasn't meant for you. I often find God puts events in my emails and on my lap that I'm meant to be at. Like if I know something's there, I'm like, all right, this is a sign I'm supposed to be there. If it's not, and I don't hear about it, I'm not supposed to be there. I think that's how I rationalize this: is, hey, you know what? My friends are here and there, and that's cool, but I wasn't meant to be there. I'll see them at another date.
That is awesome. And what are some things that you're like currently building towards in this chapter and for your next chapter in life? Like, what are some things that you're building on right now? And advice wise, can you give to people that's in these phases of life through the tunnel?
Right now, I've rebranded for the 12,000th time to One Leg Up Alex Media because I realized being One Leg Up Alex isn't enough. You put a media name on that, maybe there's a little more credibility. In addition to being in the media for 12 and a half years, the radio, on the professional level, being in radio in the college level and all that, to be my own person and to do it on my own is, I feel like an achievement. And so it's about lifting, and maybe this sounds cliche, but pulling the bootstraps up and just going for it. Like if you have an idea, I think we need more entrepreneurship in America. We don't have enough entrepreneurship in America. We have uh, people that are afraid to roll up their sleeves, are afraid to fail, or something like that. But maybe we shouldn't be afraid to fail and just go for it.
Honestly, I can't agree with you. Like, I mean, excuse me, I can agree with you 100% because like you want ownership in throughout life, especially living in here in America, and it's just incredible to see what you're doing, taking those steps in place to actually put it through into fruition. Like I was
And how many people put off doing it? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I don't think I put off a day where I wasn't like, all right, I'm not going to podcast today. Like I always am fired up to do that. So
yes,
never put it off. Just keep building. I have a friend, Moni, who just celebrated 7 years of her own business, and I'm like, how cool is that? People are doing things, and I think when you do things, you gravitate toward others who are doing as well. Look, we're gravitated because we're in media, sure, but we're also building our own journeys here. And now we're intersecting. I think that's awesome.
And for someone that may feel stuck in their tunnel right now, what advice can you give to them right now? Because as an older statement of just in general, we face those mistakes that like we might hit. What is something that you could give to them that's like in those beginning stages that they just feel stuck?
You mean like no end in sight kind of feeling?
Yes.
Um, there's always tomorrow. When I was in my toughest times and I didn't feel really as good, I just kept going, and I'm like, there's always tomorrow. God's got a blessing for you tomorrow. That's the excitement of life, right? Because we don't know what tomorrow brings. So experience that tomorrow and yet today.
That's incredible, Alex, honestly. And just listening to your story, man, it's just so dope because a lot of people wouldn't realize somebody like you might say you're just a regular person, but it's incredible to what you do. Like truly. Like when I was actually speaking to our friend Ryan and he was like breaking down like everything, I'm like, I'll have to speak to him because I sort of know what it feels like to like face those accessibility challenges because I got diagnosed with glaucoma at 17, so I lost 90% of vision in my right eye. So it's like I know what it feels like to a certain degree and
Well, I'm
how it
gonna have
feels
you
to
on my show
overcome.
too. I'd love to have you come on One Leg Up Alex Media. That would be
Yes,
awesome.
no, of course, I would love to do that, honestly, Alex, because there's a lot of things that people need to hear, especially for inspiration wise, because that's one of the main
Did radio
keys.
hit? Did radio hit you because of the lack of vision? Like that come into play, or
That's a good question. Honestly, for me, I think the reason why I kind of went into radio because I always had the idea of getting into film and TV and music and stuff, but I lost the confidence when I got diagnosed with glaucoma at 17. So I felt lost until I came to the school. Honestly, that's like the best answer I could give. Honestly, because like it took a lot. Like I didn't realize what I was facing or going through throughout life, especially with these changes with like my senses and stuff like that. Like my ears having hands, and I didn't realize what was going on. Like I thought I
Hmm.
was hearing stuff, but realistically, it was just me developing a new skill that I didn't even know I had tapped into yet. So it's just
And by
some,
the way, Five
yeah.
Towns is such a great school. I've heard about it. I've actually heard about it through the Viscardi School because I think there were some presentations from Five Towns at Viscardi, or there was some kind of collaboration between the two of them. So I've heard about Five Towns, and I think there are some kids that I graduated that went there as well. So very cool, and it's strictly radio DJ. I think that's pretty cool right there.
Yeah, no, honestly, with this school, it's incredible. Like I remember, before
And
we
it's changed from music. It's changed because it used to be just a music school, I think, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
no, the music of film and television, the theater department, like this so incredible here. Like I remember when I was walking doing the tour, I'm like, oh, I have to go here. I didn't know why. It just felt like,
Mhm.
it's that feeling, that gut feeling, and that's the one thing I always do.
Absolutely.
I trust my gut, honestly.
Well, I love what you're doing with the show, and I love the Through the Tunnel. Look, I think there was a lot of tough love along the way, and I think how I handled that made me tougher. I mean, my dad pushed me to be where I'm at now. Like, not only did he enjoy radio with me and like he had me listen to radio from a very young age, but he pushed me and he was always like, just do the job and get the job done and focus. That was focusing, and I can hear him now talking about it. And um, his push, his tough love, helped get me here. And then my mom's love of media. She was a journalist for many years, so I had that in my blood already. I feel like I grew up in a media family, and now I'm doing my own thing. And the biggest thing that I always look at is you have to look at your baby pictures. I know it sounds a little weird, but when I look at myself with tubes in my mouth when I was in the NICU for 77 days, and here I am talking, like that was a tunnel. Not for me personally, because I didn't really know, but my parents got us all through that tunnel of uncertainty of like, will he make it? Well, and I'm very thankful for them every day.
That's incredible.
My
Shout
dad's
out
my
to the
stepdad Vic.
parents.
My stepdad Vic, radio vet, rigged me up with a whole studio during pandemic and has always supported my radio career. And it was his advice to go to Queens College because St. John's accepted me, but the money wasn't there for that. And I'm glad I went to Queens. Like that was great advice to just go down the hill and make. What's the word? Make my bones there, I guess.
Well, Alex, I truly do appreciate you having on Through the Tunnel podcast because you're very incredible, very inspiring. Just even listening to the words is like, I got to keep on going, got to keep on attacking, got to adapt every day, no matter what. And I just appreciate you sharing your story, man, because a lot of people do need to hear things like this. Because, like, you, like I said, you may view yourself as a regular person. Now, a lot of people view you as a Spider-Man, bro, or Superman, like, truly.
And I'm flawed, but we can get to that one day. But I feel like I have flaws, and that's okay too, as long as I embrace them and learn from them and
Yes.
work through them. So,
Well, guys, this is another episode for Through the Tunnel podcast. This is where we don't skip the struggle, we don't skip the grind. We talk about everything because through that tunnel, you're gonna have to face some trials and tribulations as you walk and to achieve and see through that light. And until next time, you guys keep on going because once you reach that other side, oh, it'll feel incredible. It'll feel like you're on top of the world. And again, my name is Aaron Jones. This is Through the Tunnel podcast coming to you guys live from the Gene Free studio of Five Towns College. Thank you again, Alex. I won't burn unless you're there.